with a performance of a lifetime. Another group of athletes who excel not only in their particular sports, but also in their dedication and courage as they pursue their dreams of athletic glory are the physically disabled athletes. Recently, almost 300 of them competed at the U.S. Amputee Athletic Association National Championships, Nashville, Tennessee. Some of these athletes will be in Seoul 13 days after the Olympic closing ceremony for their own games, the Paralympics.
Then I received a letter from the president that says greetings, and of course then, you know, you're being drafted and off to Vietnam I went. I guess after being there for about 3 months, I was up at the Laos border driving a truck, patrolling the road to keep it open, and a rocket was shot on my truck, and that's when the left leg was amputated and the right one had to be amputated back at the field hospital. I guess the question that I was asking is why did this have to happen to me? All those things were starting to go through my mind, you know, well, what am I going to do now? Are people going to accept me the way I am? I haven't changed. I'm still the same Billy. But when I left, I'm just, you know, I'm just not whole anymore.
The human form in its ideal. But compare the ideal with what is real, and reality is often the more inspiring, as in the case of Bill Demby and many others like him who gathered recently in Nashville for the National Amputee Games.
When you're on the starting line, just keep your concentration. Maybe they'll call back.
With my corporate all.
Lap counter.
Clear the track.
Pleasure, Bill.
Any world-class athletic competition like this is made up of men and women who have dedicated hours of practice each day of every week of every year. The struggle may be greater for some. Their preparation may be different, but the process and the results are not. Meet Al Mead, a champion high jumper who lost his left leg at the age of 9.
Jumped 5 feet 10, and that was my best. I wish I could have got to 6 feet.
I think that being an amputee is a benefit. I really do. I mean, I cannot say there is one drawback, one thing I can't do. I may run a little different, but I can run. I mean, the average kid in my school, you wouldn't see them here in a national competition. I mean, this is something special, something unique that isn't happening every day. I'm very excited to be an amputee, proud to be one.
I was injured when I was 22 months, and that's my horse. Yeah. So I'm used to this.
SACAJEWEA Hunter, a victim of child abuse, had to have both legs amputated at the hip. A few years ago, an athletic educational group in Washington, D.C. convinced her to try wheelchair racing at a time when she felt like giving up.
Some people think because you don't have legs, you can't think. And they think you can't go to school. They think you can't, you know, plant flowers or read a book or, you know, something like that. I want to go for the gold. Yeah. I'm going to go for the highest, reach for the highest thing possible. That's not only in the Olympics, but all throughout my life.
This little kid comes up to me, and his mom was sitting there, and the little kid staring at me, and looking away, staring at me. And he runs over to his mom and he goes, "Hey, Mom, that guy's got an earring in his nose." You know, he didn't say that guy's in a wheelchair, or that guy's, you know, doesn't have legs. He said that guy's got an earring in his nose. And that's the type of thing that I feel I portray out, and that's the image that I want to portray.
After years of getting around on his skateboard, Craig Blanchette moved into a sophisticated wheelchair and has been breaking world records ever since. Craig's disability came at birth, but most of the athletes here in Nashville are accident victims, many injured at the hands of drunk drivers.
At that time, I was scheduled to sign a contract to play professional soccer in May, and I lost my leg in April.
And Claude POUMEROL's accident occurred just before she was scheduled to compete in the 1964 Olympics, representing France.
I was in a car with my father. My father got killed. It was a drunk driver who had us head-on collision.
In Nashville, Claude broke 2 world records in the amputee trials. She, like dozens of others here, has been working for years to make an Olympic team. disabled sports have made some strides forward. During the Winter Games, disabled athletes were allowed to compete in 2 demonstration skiing events. And in Seoul during the Summer Games, wheelchair-bound athletes may again participate in 2 exhibition races. Disabled athletes argue it isn't enough. There is some disappointment here. Although the mentally handicapped are allowed to hold and compete in the Special Olympic Games, the physically disabled have no such rights. In fact, it is illegal for the disabled to even refer to their games as Olympics. And when they compete in Seoul, it will be in October, fully 2 weeks after the 1988 Olympians have packed and gone home. These athletes say they suffer discrimination because of how they look, and they believe that with stronger leadership and organization, they could be a factor in the '92 Olympics in Barcelona.
A lot of the way that we can get involved in the athletics is to start pushing to be one governing body, or, you know, two real good ones, yeah, and to be involved in the meets that able-bodied athletics are in. That'll get us the exposure, that'll get it on TV, and that'll get people start getting excited about things. The sport will start getting bigger, and it'll just skyrocket from there.
There is more than a lack of television exposure holding back these athletes.
She is on the equivalent, if you will, of the disabled Olympic team, but we can't say that because there are federal laws and statutes and everything else that says the only folks that can use the word Olympic is United States Olympic Committee.
I'd like to see, when you say U.S. team, I'd like to see everyone there. You know, I think it would be the best thing in the world that when you say, well, we're raising money for the Olympic team, that it includes people like myself who have put in just as much time to train and has gone through as much pain as some able-bodied person.
The excitement of competition like this is now possible for these athletes after years of personal grief.
Having to deal with a disability, it was just too much for me. And there was a 2 or 3 year period in there where I just couldn't deal with it, and I just sort of hit rock bottom.
Demby credits his mother and best friend with saving him from despair. Eventually, he was competing in disabled games and was signed to do this national television commercial.
Now Bill's back, and some say he hasn't lost a step.
I guess the message is that, most people are afraid of failing, and therefore they don't try. And I guess that's the message. I always say, you win when you try. I know I'm not going to beat everyone that I come up to, but I also think when I say, sure, I'll play you, I've already won the game.